let's talk about accounting standards. You're welcome to episode 2 of Synopsis of Accounting Standards, and today we'll be talking about the Conceptual Framework. Yes, I mentioned it a little bit in episode 1. If you haven't watched episode 1, why? Go watch episode 1. So today we're diving in deep into the Conceptual Framework. Well, story time. Imagine you asked 3 architects to design the exact same 3-bedroom house, but you did not give them a blueprint. Of course, architect A can decide to put the kitchen in front, architect B upstairs, and architect C could decide to put it in the bedroom. Yes, they were given the same assignments, but because they didn't have a blueprint, the designs will have different specifications, different measurements, and probably different structures. But let's actually flip the story around. Let's imagine you actually did give them a blueprint. Now, this time around, they would have to follow the same design, same specifications, and even though there may be slight difference in the structures, but there will be a lot of similarities, and comparability and inconsistency would be minimal. That is the purpose of a blueprint, and that is how the conceptual framework works. Now, the blueprint does not build the house, but it guides the architect. In the same vein, the IASB uses the conceptual framework as a guide when creating and revising accounting standards. Episode 1, I taught you that the IASB was established to harmonize financial reporting. That is what? To create accounting standards that would ensure consistency and eliminate incomparability. Now, the conceptual framework is what they use to actually achieve that. The big question is, do they actually have to use the conceptual framework all the time? Of course not. Remember, it's just a blueprint, and just like an architect may occasionally make justified changes to the blueprint, the IASB in very rare situations may decide not to follow the conceptual framework. They call it what's departing from the conceptual framework. But wait, they cannot just wake up one morning and say we are not using the conceptual framework. No, they can't do that. They can only depart from it. That is, not use the conceptual framework if it would help achieve the objective of financial reporting, which is to provide information to the users of the financial statements. And even if they depart, they have to tell us why. Now, did you think it was only the IASB that benefits from the conceptual framework? Of course not. Even the preparers and users of the financial statement also enjoy it. Now, when the IASB develops the accounting standards, the preparers of the financial statement use it when they are preparing the financial statement. In some situations that there will be no accounting standard available, or there will be an accounting standard but to allow for different accounting policies. How would they make decisions? What do? They rely on the conceptual framework to make a decision. Now, the users of the financial statement, on the other hand, they need to understand and interpret the financial statement properly to make decisions, and the conceptual framework helps them achieve that. Why do these 3 groups actually need it? Let's actually take a step back and think about it deeply. Well, the end goal is to achieve the objective of financial reporting. Before an information can be said to be useful, there is something it has to have. We have what we call the fundamental characteristics and the enhancing characteristics. Now, we're going to be using a bowl of gari as an example. Now, when you want to drink gari, what is the major thing you need? You need the gari and the water, obviously. Or you may decide that, okay, you want to add kuli or granuts or chicken to the bowl of gari. Now, those are what will enhance the bowl of gari, right? So now we have what we call the fundamental characteristics and the enhancing characteristics. Now, the fundamental characteristics are relevant and faithful representation. So for a financial statement to be said to have useful information, it has to be relevant, obviously. Can it influence the decisions of the users? And is it faithfully represented? Is it free, neutral, and what's complete? Because if it's not complete, then what are we talking about? Then enhancing characteristics also. The financial statement has to be comparable. Can we compare the financial statements with different companies, or even the same company over different years? Remember that the purpose of accounting standards in the first place is comparability. The financial statement has to be published on time. If you are publishing it after we don't need it, then it's useless. In addition, the financial statement has to also be understandable. Understanding is very important. Don't use technical jargons. Explain to us. Let us understand what you're talking about. And verifiability. Can knowledgeable parties actually look at that financial statement and say, yes, this financial statement has useful information and accurate information? But we're talking about useful information. What information are we actually talking about? Well, the conceptual framework states that the financial statement should provide information about the assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses of a company. In one word, this is called the elements of the financial statement. We're going to start episode 3 from there. Well, if you haven't subscribed, liked, commented, or shared this video at this point, please make sure you do, and try out the quiz I prepared for you, just for you to just be sure that you understood all that was taught in this episode. All right, bye.